You made it.
I did it. We're doing it.
We figured it out.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, now I gotta adjust this since I'm like half the screen.
Yeah, it's
All
weird.
All right, this is new. Hi, Dr. Ikizler.
Hi, Bahaur. It's so good to be here with you.
So nice to be here with you. Can you hear me okay?
I can.
Okay, good. And I'm seeing that people are starting to slowly join in. I'm getting used. This is the first live I've ever done. So have you done this before?
Nope. First time for me too.
Okay, so we're completely new to this. How's your morning so far?
Going pretty well. I'm frustrated because I experienced fake spring here in DC where I live, and now it is cold again, and I'm not down with it.
It's cold here too in Nebraska. I thought it was supposed to start warming up, but
I know.
In any case, eventually it will. Let me also, I think just to make sure that this is showing up too. I think it is because people are here.
Yeah, I guess that means.
Hi, everyone. And oh yeah, there it is. Oh, I can join myself. That's weird.
Hold on a second. Can people hear us?
I think, yeah. Can someone confirm if you can hear us okay? I'm not sure. But I do hear, okay, great. Thank you, AMENA-Psy.
Hi, AMENA-Psy.
Awesome.
Yay.
So glad. Well, and I think we can get started in about like a minute or so, or give it a couple minutes.
Yeah.
There is some background noise. I don't know if that's on my end.
You know what? I think it's on my end. I'm at like a kind of creaky desk, so I will try not to be leaning on it.
Okay. I was like, I don't know where that's coming from.
Hi.
Okay. So this is the second contribution to Counseling Psychology series. And yeah, like we can wait a minute and drink coffee for the next 30 seconds or so.
Yeah, I almost did bring my coffee with me, but I have water.
There's this fun like wave feature. I don't know what that does, but I'm gonna try and do it. Oh, I waved at somebody.
Wait,
this
what?
Is fun.
I don't see that. Hold
when
on.
Someone joins?
Maybe because you're a host you can do it and I can't?
Oh, maybe. Maybe that's why. Okay, well, yeah, I can wave at people. See, I can wave. Hi, Kylie. And it says I can wave. But, okay. So it is 11:30 CST time. You can go ahead and get started. I just want to make sure that if I need to, I can also look at the questions and okay, so I know where everything is. Hi, everybody. I will orient everyone to this space and introduce myself. My name is Bahaur Amini. I am a counseling psychology PhD student and currently completing my last year on internship at the University of Nebraska-Lincoln at the CAPS Counseling and Psychological Services. I want to take a just shout out to SAS for inviting me to be able to be a student host for this series, and also giving me the honor of interviewing and talking with somebody I look up to so dearly and love so much, Dr. Ikizler. Been my role model since my early years as a graduate student, so I'm just really excited to be doing this with you on my first live on this series. So for everyone that's tuning in, just to let you know, we have about 25 minutes to talk to Dr. Ikizler, and I want to apologize if I do interchange between Aisha and Dr. Ikizler on accident, because but we're going to try and keep this more formal. But just about some of your interests, including, multicultural issues within Arab and MENA populations, as well as like just leadership and mentorship in the field, and intersecting our professional and personal identities. But, before I know so much about you, but I want to introduce you to everybody who is watching. Dr. Ikizler is a soon-to-be associate professor at St. Mary's College of Maryland. She teaches classes related to multiculturalism, social justice, counseling issues. Her research focuses on, the intersection and the connection between oppression and I'm going to make sure I do this completely right. The oppression experiences, mental health outcomes among marginalized groups, and specific focus on MENA populations and sexual minorities. She's also was part of the steering committee that helped establish an organization that we love so much, AMENA-Psy. It's a nonprofit organization, also spelled out is the American Arab, Middle Eastern, and North African Psychological Association. And during her time, she served on many committees, including the Conference Planning Committee, Advocacy Committee, and has also been the president-elect and recently rotated off as her 2-year term as president. There's so much more I can obviously say about you and all your accomplishments, but I'll just leave it there. And thank you so much for being here with me today.
Oh, well, Bahaur, it is such a pleasure to be here. Like I said earlier, I'm so happy to be here. Also thankful to SAS for having this great idea for programming, and I'm especially glad to be here with you specifically, Bahaur, because you've been such a big part of my own personal and professional development and journey as well. So I'm so glad that AMENA-Psy brought us together. So speaking of which, I also want folks to know kind of how we know each other. It's not like this is a super random matchup here. So Bahaur was the second ever student member at large for AMENA-Psy. And so I got to meet Bahaur at APA convention in 2019. She showed up to the AMENA-Psy meeting, really eager to get involved. And we were really in a position where we needed help, all the help, all the things. And for everything that came up, Bahaur was like, me, I'll help. Yep, me. And I was so thankful. And then, of course, as everybody knows, the pandemic started, and I got to know Bahaur really well virtually through all of our meetings in AMENA-Psy, and then we would end up frequently talking one-on-one or in smaller group setups. And then, then Bahaur came to my house at some point in life. She flew on an airplane and came to my house this past summer, and it was so wild to see you in that different space. So I hope that as we talk today, we get a chance to talk about maybe a little bit about how our own personal and professional identities have not only interacted with one another, but also with our own individual development and growth experiences as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I do think that as you're mentioning that too, just the relationships that I have fostered and established through the organization, how different they've looked from relationships that we have often in our other academic spaces, and how that may be related to culture and just like how westernized we think that these relationships should look, and some of those boundaries. And I think that comes with some of the multicultural issues, when working with Arab MENA people in the community, right? When we talk about counseling psychology, is just how different relationships can look in our roles. But to really kick us off, because this is, you have done so much for counseling psych, but I'm really wanting to know, because I don't think I've actually ever really personally asked you this question. I want all our viewers to know. And by the way, please feel free to use the chat, ask your questions. This is going to be a conversation. And I have some questions prepared, but really, if there are questions from anyone in the audience or who's viewers, please feel free. I'll be keeping an eye out on that. But really wanting to know,
I just want to echo that. Don't be shy.
Yeah, really don't be shy. We're not shy people. Just thinking about your contributions to the field, what would you say at this state, you're most proud of?
I kind of think of contributions as being both big and small, right? So in terms of a big contribution, I would definitely say my work and contributions to the development of AMENA-Psy. AMENA-Psy is so incredibly close to my heart, and it's been so meaningful. And I guess so for some background, for me, kind of growing up and coming up in psychology, I distinctly remember not feeling like I saw myself in the research. Literally, scrolling down, actually flipping through pages because I'm that old, flipping through print pages of articles, looking at the sample to see if it included an Arab or MENA population, not seeing one included, feeling like I literally don't show up in the literature. That was really motivating for me for wanting to be involved in MENA psychology and helping to establish MENA American psychology in particular.
Yeah.
And I know that I've heard from a lot of folks coming up behind me as grad students or ECPs now, talking about having the same experience. And every time somebody talks about that and people are starting to see themselves now in the literature in new ways, in part thanks to the work of AMENA-Psy, I just couldn't be more fulfilled by, hearing those stories. So that would be the big. And then in small ways, I think the relationships that I've been able to establish, like with you, with other students, with other professionals, things that, I would say kind of give our work lives meaning. Yeah. I don't know how much to go on now.
No, I know. And as you're saying this too, I'm just thinking about how big of a contribution this is, and it's so all fresh and new, but just knowing the growth of AMENA-Psy over the last few years and how it has provided a space that more students and professionals, at all stages can feel like they're seen, they belong, and so much of that, wouldn't have been done unless you were president, right? And I think your encouragement of me and other students to be able to put ourselves out there and lead and also, do event planning or, programming, really facilitated all that. And I'm curious because you're such a you're so good at leading and so good at mentoring. Where did you learn what it would take to be such an amazing mentor and role model?
Wow. That is a really good question. I think, two things come to mind. So one is that I've had really great mentors over the years. I had a really excellent mentor as a graduate student at the University of Tennessee. I was mentored by Don Zemansky, a counseling psychologist. And then Libby Williams was my undergraduate mentor, also big name counseling psychologist. And they really expressly took a really feminist approach to their mentorship of me. And I think that I internalized that. And then the other thing that comes to mind is just, how do I want to be a person, right? When I think about how I want to interact with mentees, and I do this even with undergraduate students, I just think of people as people first, myself and my students. We meet each other as people, and then we happen to be wearing various professional or academic hats, and we work with each other as people through those roles. I know that might sound a little bit abstract, but I guess in a more concrete way, what I mean by that is, who are you in the world? What are your goals? How does this particular slice of your life fit in with the rest of it? That's always been really important to me. And that's part of what I mean when I talk about personal and professional identities kind of developing in tandem with one another.
Yeah. I think that's such a big piece I think we're missing. And as you're bringing it up, I'm just reflecting on, my past mentorship or, supervisory roles, and just thinking of which ones made a bigger impact and which ones really I can say facilitated and contributed to my growth as a student. And it was the ones that took time to see me as a whole person. And I'm seeing reactions also in the chat and hearts going up, and just want to say I see that, and continue please sharing your reflections in the chat function. But yeah, I'm just thinking about how and why are there so far and few of those types of mentors that take that time to get to know us, because I'm finding, and this is another issue right within our field, I'm finding that when that isn't being paid attention to, when our identities, our other identities, our personal identities, our home life, our values aren't being considered by mentors or supervisors, the type of harm that creates.
Yeah. Yeah, I think you're right to name it as harm.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, you broke up a little bit. Were you still going? I didn't mean to
No,
interrupt.
just thinking like, and how that harm impacts specifically, right? Like students and professionals who identify as Arab or Middle Eastern.
Yeah, I mean, I think that it becomes a huge deterrent. It gives people the sense that they don't belong in that setting. Or I think it leads to concealment, compartmentalization. But I don't think that people can do their best work in either space if they need to fully compartmentalize that way. And I think the pandemic actually, in a lot of ways, brought those of compartmentalizing personal from professional identity to light. You know, I think about my own experience, because my time as president of AMENA-Psy was entirely during the pandemic. And I also have two young children, one of whom was born during the pandemic. The other one was 1.5 at the beginning of the pandemic. So necessarily, they were around during some of my meetings, both with AMENA-Psy and with my work at St. Mary's College. So, and I wasn't alone in that. And I liked them created a more large-scale systemic need to be more cognizant of people's other responsibilities outside of their professional lives. And by the way, hi to everyone's joining. I'm seeing a lot of friends, colleagues, even like relatives of mine from other places. So hi, welcome. Thanks for being here.
That's so great. And Mary in the chat, you know, also saying that thinks it speaks to what we mentioned about the Eurocentric values regarding boundaries and how much those are ingrained, right? And speaking to the pandemic, I think it did definitely push us to be more mindful, right? Like of what relationship boundaries might look like. We were kind of forced into seeing people maybe in their homes. You know, we couldn't remove that part of their lives, because if we're asking for people to be on these meetings, then innately, like, where else are you going to be in these virtual meetings, right? Other than your home, no one in the office. So it kind of opened that up a little bit, where you can see people as people. Yeah, and it's just, how do we continue that? Because I'm part of me wonders and worries about the field, although counseling psychology, I think, has grown in that way by seeing more of our other parts of our lives, as we are kind of, I mean, who knows, pandemic over, not over, but going back to a more normal life, what's going to happen to this? Like, what do you think?
I mean, you know, I do see some things going back to pre-pandemic normal, right? In some ways, I think in unfortunate ways of, you know, needing to be in a certain physical space, for example, when it really actually isn't necessary. I think that that's a problem, but in a lot of ways, I think that folks will not fully go back to, you know, keeping their work lives isolated from home lives. Speaking of boundaries, though, I think that that does create challenges, right? I feel like so far we've talked about kind of breaking down those boundaries a little bit as a positive, but I also think it's important to be aware of the different ways that we still need to hold boundaries for ourselves, right? Like, I feel like I've seen a meme going around that was like, you know, don't mistake my free time as availability, right? We should still have time that, you know, even though we could hop on a call at any time, even if we're with our kids or families or friends or what have you, that doesn't mean we should. Unless our friends are also our colleagues, right? Like you and I became. I think that that's been really awesome. And I also don't think that I spoke enough earlier to how much I think your leadership style actually really contributed a lot to the growth of AMENA-Psy, and not just in the student realm. For sure in the student domain, but also, you know, you were one of the major organizers and leaders of our conferences, of our huge webinars that we've hosted. And I think it's because you also have this amazing talent to be able to connect people, help people feel like they belong. Folks in the comments obviously agree with me. So I almost like, I'm resisting the urge, but I kind of want to ask you how you learned it. You know, like, where did you get that from? How did you know to be how you are?
And I'm blushing. This is really sweet. I think, actually, I will say, I think it's really kind. I don't think as a student, I think, and also coming from a culture where, hierarchy is very prevalent, right? And you respect your elders, you respect your teachers, you respect their wisdom, and you don't overcross boundaries, like, but at the same time, we're direct people, so we ask questions, but when we're told no, then we respect that. I think as a student under your leadership, what made that possible was you allowing me to be me. Was being given that opportunity. I think when we talk about mentorship and really understanding what students' strengths are, or maybe what they're hoping to achieve or their goals, I think I remember having so much restriction in other spaces of just like, well, what about this? We can't do that because of risk of this, because of risk of that. But I was able to learn, and the first few were not perfect, and they're still not perfect, but they got better and better over time. But I was given, you were confident. I think having a mentor that was confident in me helped me feel more confident in myself and take those chances, and role modeling how to help me work through some of those questions I had or challenges. I remember, like, specifically, like, you'd ask me if I was really frustrated with something. You'd ask me, what is it that's frustrating me? You'd ask me, what do I think I would have liked differently if I could go back? Just even those questions we know ourselves, but we don't ask ourselves. But working through that helped me also figure out how I wanted to be that mentor for the student committee that I led, or the people who were coming in, and fostering their confidence and their ability to make decisions and be themselves. So I couldn't have done it without you. But with you by my side, I was able to do some pretty cool stuff within the organization. And yet again, background that Dr. Ikizler and I, we were on the same 2-year term, 2020 and 2021, when everything kind of fell apart in the world, and we all had to go home and just work from home. Was when my term was a student member as large within AMENA-Psy. So that stretched us in many ways and really helped give me a platform to do the work I wanted to do that I wasn't given the space to do elsewhere.
Yeah,
that's enough. I don't think we ever have spaces to do that work that we're so passionate about. In many of our programs, in our training sites, we're restricted by the population we are able to see, or the type of training we're looking for, the research we want to do, because how many are doing research with Arab populations in our field? Not many.
Yeah. I mean, I guess I'm hearing like a couple of things in your response to the question about leadership. One of the things I'm hearing is being given kind of freedom and autonomy is really powerful, literally liberating.
I have no idea what happened.
I know, I don't either.
Oh no.
I know.
Okay, well, we're back.
Yeah,
did it just cut me off?
On my end, at first you were frozen and then you disappeared.
Oh no. Well, that's okay. I don't know what happened. It's okay. I just think it's all of a sudden frozen on my other device, and I go, thank goodness I have another one. But we can finish our thought and then wrap things up.
I don't remember what our thought was. Oh, I do remember. I was talking about leadership being about offering autonomy and freedom.
That's right.
And then also being about establishing culture. I think that's where I lost you, where leadership is about, and I was saying that we were really lucky, you know, having the opportunity on the board of AMENA-Psy to be able to set up our own kind of cultural expectations. And by that, I mean, you know, borrowing maybe from both our dominant Americanness and from our ethnic group culture, and being able to kind of create our own thing that made sense. And I would even add that I was borrowing from counseling psych culture as well, right? I think counseling psychologists are unique within the field of psychology, in the things that we value and the way that we operate in the world. So I feel like we were able to bring all those pieces together into a hopefully pretty functional way of being and running an organization.
Yeah, no, I agree. I definitely agree. And um, I'm just thinking about like, and now also, I know we were supposed to be wrapping up around this time, but given the couple minutes that we lost due to technology difficulties, and I called it, didn't I call this? Like I had a
I was
feeling.
most nervous about tech, to be honest with you. Most nervous.
This is just so new to me that I was totally, I called it, I knew it. But I guess like to leave off at this point, or if there's anything, actually, yeah, let's spend our last couple minutes, like if there's anything that we haven't discussed yet that you would like to share with like current counseling, psych students or psych graduate students in general, even.
Yeah. I mean, I would offer this sort of thought process, maybe not advice, but thought process to graduate students and even undergraduate students, because I work at a predominantly undergraduate institution. I think a lot about the pipeline and undergraduates. I would say when you think about your career goals and your educational aspirations, take a step back and think about your whole life. What do you want out of your whole life? Not just what do you want out of your job or your career. What are the different hats that you wear? For example, a lot of people might think about having kids, which was true for me, but obviously not for everybody. Some people might also think about aging family members, maybe adult siblings that they want to be close to as, you know, as they continue to age. You know, like think about the hobbies that are of interest to you, your friends. What do you want your overall life to look like? And then think about where does career fit into it? And what do you need to get there? And then as you shape your career over time, how do all the pieces fit together? And I feel like growing up for me, I kind of got the advice that, you know, your social life or your, you know, personal obligations or interests come secondary to professional. But really, why does one need to come first? Why does one have to take priority over the other? So I really encourage people to look at the whole picture and then think about how your professional goals fit in with the rest. And I feel like that is the hill that I would die on. It is like my number one advice.
That's so freeing. I think, I mean, and as someone who works in college counseling, right? Like I'm at a college counseling center working with students and who are struggling, especially like seniors, right? Like of thinking about what they want to do. And I'm going to speak, I'm biased, right? Like, so especially when I speak with like, or have students of color in my room and who have other values that are important to them, and making a career decision or a decision on a major is really distressing. And they're being told, go for this career. Like, you know, this is what you want, this is what you should be doing. And, you know, you'll make it work. And just kind of that conflict, right? Like that is constantly there. As someone who does value their community so much and cannot be happy without them, even if you're doing your dream job. So, and we have in the chat someone saying, love your advice, Dr. Ikizler. Of course, AMENA-Psy supporting. If there's any other questions, last questions or comments in the chat that we can address before we sign off the tech issues, and hopefully it'll be resolved, and hopefully the live did record and it will be there. I don't know, but whoever got to tune in, you got it. And it doesn't seem like there are any other questions right now. So thank you so much, Dr. Ikizler, for taking the time to speak with me on this. And for everyone else, there are a number of other series that will be coming up, or I guess episodes in this series that will be coming up and announced. So stay tuned, and wishing everyone a great rest of the week.
Yeah, thanks for joining us. Bye.
Thank you. Bye. Okay, now I'm going to try and end this the right way. Boy.